Hello everyone, I'm Frank. Welcome to Frank Puzzles, and this is today's very hard puzzle. I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but it might be a while. It's definitely going to be a while. The question is, how long is that while going to be? Anyways, today's puzzle is called Send in the Clones by Jay Dyer. That could be a reference to multiple things. It could be Send in the Clowns, which is a wonderful song actually by Stephen Sondheim. I think the musical is called Company. It's a lovely song with wonderful lyrics. Or it could be reference to clones, as in, I don't know, maybe Attack of the Clones from Star Wars. Anyways, let's get to the actual puzzle and its rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply, which means place the digits 1 through 9 once each in every row, column, and box. Cells connected by a black dot have values in a 1 to 2 ratio. And these are called Kropke dots, and they're called black Kropke dots. So if this had a value of 6, this would have to have a value of 3 or 12. We're going with that right now. I don't know what the clones are going to be. Probably that's not actually going to be accurate. In normal Sudoku, you would have to have a 3 in that because it has to maintain a 1 to 2 ratio. The value of cells on a line, the value of cells on a line form a non-repeating set of consecutive numbers, which may be in any order. So the values of cells, so this is called a Renban line. So the value of cells on a line, on one of these lines, form a non-repeating, so you cannot have repeating values, set of consecutive numbers. So the numbers have to be consecutive. So if you know one value of, say, this line was a 1, you would know that, excuse me, the other value on that line would have to be 2 and 3. Or maybe 0, but that's probably not the case. Because, yeah, 1 is only consecutive with 2 in normal Sudoku, and 2 is only consecutive with 1 and 3, and obviously you have a 1 already, so it would have to be included 3. So that's a Renban. Okay, and now to the clone part. 9 cells, 1 per row, column, and box are clone cells. Clone cells all have the same value, a number from 1 to 9, which must be determined. Okay, so it's a value from 1 to 9. So the previous example where I said of the black Kropke dots cannot be 6 to 12 because that's not a valid value. The values have to be from 1 through 9, which must be determined, and they all have the same value. All the clone cells have the same value, and there's 1 per row, 1 per column, and 1 per box. Independent of the digit they contain. So that means that the clone is basically just the same value wherever it is. No matter what the digit contains. And each digit appears in exactly one clone cell. So you'll have the digits 1 through 9 in each of the clone cells, but we don't know which one it is. And those are all the rules. That's actually not a very big subset of rules for a very hard problem, which is interesting. Anyways, those are all the rules. If you'd like to play along, there's going to be a link in the description. And now, I'm going to get started. Let's go. Okay, so, interestingly enough, that means, so, the clone value is all the same, and it's from 1 through 9. So this still has to have the values of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8. This is still the values of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8. But the 5, 7, or 9 could be in one of these two spots. The This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it has the values of 2 through 8, and then either 1 or 9. So this is 8 in length. We're just gonna put like things so that we can see. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in length. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in length. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in length also. Interesting. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in length. This is 3 in length. This is 3 in length. This is 3. This is 2. This is 4. What does that tell us? I'm not really sure. We know there's a 5 in value here. There's also it has to have a 4 and a 6 in value also. Right? Because it can be 1 through 6, 2 through 7, 3 through 8, or 4 through 9, which all contains 4, 5, and 6. So we have 4, 5, and 6 in value all here. We have 4, 5, 6 in value here. We have 4, 5, 6 in value here. Okay, if 4, 5, or 6 is not the value of a clone, that means we have 2 sets of 4, 5, and 6 here already, which means these cannot have a value of 4, 5, and 6 at all. So therefore, in this Renban, you would have to have all the 4, 5s, and 6s would have to be in these 2 cells. But that's not the case then, because that Renban wouldn't work. Therefore, 1 of 4, 5, or 6 is the value of the clone, right? We cannot have any other 4, 5, or 6s in this. If 4, 5, and 6 were not the value of the clone, then you would not be able to have any of these Ren. We already know the 4, 5, and 6 has to be in the value of this Renban. Because of that, we know that's 2 sets of 4, 5, and 6 already. So because of that, we know there's no 4, 5, and 6s in the rest of the columns, right? But if 4, 5, or 6 is not the clone, therefore we know that these 2 would have to have all 3 values of 4, 5, and 6, which is obviously not possible. Therefore, the value of the clone must be 4, 5, or 6. We don't know which, though. So that means it could have 2 clones, essentially, on here of 4, 5, and 6. Which means the other 2 have to be the non-clones. So this has to be 4, 5, and 6, right? Because you can have at most 1 clone of each, right? Because it's only one of the values is cloned. So the other 2 could not be here. So these are the non-cloned value. That's 4, 5, or 6. So these have to be non-clones. Because they are the so the clone value can be repeated, essentially, in these 2 cells, obviously. The non-clone values cannot, these 2 columns, the non-clone values cannot be repeated here. So therefore, these are the non-clone values. This has one of the cloned values. And it could have. So the non-clone values are here. And 1 of 4, 5, or 6 is there. So this cannot contain. It could be the clone value. Because, in fact, it actually has to contain a clone value here. Right? If you don't have a clone value, you have, well, okay. That's not necessarily true. You could have two clone values of the clone value, right? Which would leave possibly one uncloned value, one of the cloned values here. So say the 5 was the clone value, right? Then you could have two clone values here. And this could be a 5, and one of these could be a 5, right? Well, it would have to be that one specifically. Or this could be the clone value, right? And then one of these would have the non-clone value of 5. Or 5 could be in one of the clones, and therefore it would be part of the clone value. So this could also not be not have a valid value of the clone value, or a non-cloned version of the clone value. So we know these are 2 out of 4, 5, and 6. This sees all 5 of these cells. And you have to have the value of 5 at least. But 5 could be... Okay, so this is never... So here we have... Okay, so this could be this value. One of these is the uncloned value of 4, 5, and 6. Sorry, you have 2 of the uncloned value of 4, 5, and 6, and you have another one of the uncloned value of 4, 5, and 6. So whatever this is, it must be the uncloned values. All right, so one of them has to be here, and the other one has to be here, right? So whatever this is, you have obviously uncloned value here, and then the uncloned value has to be one of these. For this one, that's interesting. What does that mean? I'm not sure. So for these, you have to have... there's no cell that sees all of these cells, though. That's the problem. Okay. You can... Okay, so since we know 4, 5, and 6 have to be... One of 4, 5, or 6 is the duplicate. That means one of these has to have that clone value in here. And it could be the non-clone version or the clone version. We don't know. But if one of them is 2 through 8, or like 2 through 7, or 3 through 8. So say this is 2 through 7 or 3 through 8. That would mean if one was 2 through 7 and one was 3, or one was 3 through 8. Say it was 2 through 7. If both of them are 1 through 6, so say this is 1 through 6 and 1 through 6, the problem is we have 3 sets that have 3 renbands, which all have 1, 2, and 3 3 times in 2 columns, and that's not allowed. So one of these has to be 1 through 6. One of them has to be 4 through 9. And the other one also has to be... Hold up. Right. So we know one has to be 1 through 6 and one has to be 4 through 9, right? If you don't have those splits, say you have no 4 through 9s, that means you'll always have at least a 3 through 8. Therefore, you'll have 3 at least 3 times because you'll have to have 1 through 6, which includes 3, 2 through 7, which includes 3, and 3 through 8, which includes 3. And you'll have that 3 times in 2 columns, which is not allowed. So one of them has to be 1 through 4, 1 through 6. The other one has to be 4 through 9. The other one could be anywhere in between, right? So it could be 1 through 6 again, or it could be 4 through 9 again, or it could be 2, 8, or 3, 7, right? So one is 1 through 4, one is 1 through 6, one is 2 through 9. Sorry, one is 1 through 6, the other one is 4 through 9. The other one must be either can be any of the four. Can be 1 through 6, 2 through 8, 2 through 7, 3 through 8, or 4 through 9. We just don't know though which one. So say you have two 1 through 6s here, right? You have a 1 through 6 and a 1 through 6, and then you have 7, 8, and 9. You would have to have hmm, we don't know. These would have to be 7, 8, or 9 though. Or the uh cloned digit, right? Cloned value, shall I say. One thing is that this has to have a value of 5 at least somewhere here. It could be 1 through 5. Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. This value, again, it has to be the uncloned value. It's not the cloned values, or not the, yeah, it's not the clone values. I don't even know what an uncloned value is. This, well, but does have to be not a clone. And it has to have not the clone value. And the thing is, we know there has to be one of those here, and there has to be one of those here. I guess it could be here, though. So this value is not along any of these, but it could be here. We know in these two columns, it has to be in both this Renban and this Renban, which means it cannot be either of these two cells. So we have, interestingly enough, this is, I don't know, I guess we color it something different. Orange and blue. Or actually make this green, I guess. This is orange. So the orange has to be, obviously, in two of these cells. The green cannot be in any of these cells, obviously, but it has to already be twice in these Renbans. So it cannot be here because that since there are already two of them here, neither of them can be over here. So the green cannot be here. This can't be green, obviously, but this could be the green. So we know this is the green one, right? We also know that that green one has to be here, interestingly enough. Um, Hmm. And okay. If this is a 5, that's not possible. Because then that would say 5 is not the cloned value. And in addition, this can't have a 5 then, a natural 5. So since 5 is not the cloned value, and it can't have a natural 5 there, that doesn't work. Right? Because this Renban has to have a 5 in value somehow. So that's not possible. So this can never be 5. This has to be a 4 or a 6. Which actually is very telling, because we know this is the non-cloned value. Or this is not the cloned value. Therefore, it has to be 4 or 6, which means they cannot be on this line. Which means this line has to be 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, or it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, interestingly enough. So therefore, this has to be a certain value of on this line, and it has to be either high or low with a 5 in value. So it could, if they're both high, first of all, if they're both high, that means this is 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, which means this is a 4. And this would have to be 6 and 8 in value in a 1 to 2 ratio. So this cannot be high. This cannot be high. This has to be low. So this has to be the values of 1 through 5. So we know there's a 1, 2, and a 3 here. And there's a value of, there has to be a value of 4, which could be the duplicate. But then this would never be the 4 in real life, because it would have to be the non-value. So we know this has to be a 6 then. Because we know if it was a 4 that's not that valued, these would have to be right. It just would not be possible. So these can never be 1, 2, 3. It could be 4. It can't be 6 anymore. And it has to be 4 and 8. Because it sees all of 1, 2, and 3. So these can't be 1, 2, or 3. You can't have a value of 5 be there with a clone. So I think we know now that the value has to be 4 cloned. So therefore, this has to be 5. Right? We know this has a value of 5, of 1 through 5. But 1, 2, and 3 are eliminated from here. 6 cannot be here because we know this is 6. Because again, this is either 4 or 6. If it were 4, that means 4 cannot be cloned, which also means 4 cannot be on this line, but we know this has to be 5 lows on this line, because otherwise these two values wouldn't work, right? Because it has to be either 6 cloned, and this is 4. But the problem is, if this is 6 cloned and this is 4, yeah, let's go through this again. Okay, say this was high again. Say this was high. Then this has to have the values 5 through 7, 8, or 9, right? The problem with that is we know 7, 8, and 9 cannot be the clone values. So this makes this 1, 2, 3, the values of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? But these have to be these have to be values of 5 or greater, which are in a 2-to-1 ratio with something. Therefore, the values can only be 6 and 8 and 6 and 8, which forces this to be 3 and 4 and 3 and 4. And we know that this is the values of 6 and 8. If we try to make this the clone, if we try to make 6 the clone, that just doesn't work because we know this is a non-cloned, this is not the clone value. Therefore, this can't be 6 because it can't be the clone value. So these can't be clones which add up to this. And we know the value 6 has already been here 5 times. And this is not a clone value, so it can't be 6 then. So therefore, this has to be the 4. But the problem is that we have a 6868, which requires a value of 4, but we know 4 is not the clone value. Therefore, this can't be, essentially. So therefore, this can't be high, which means this has to be low. So this has to be the values of 1 through 5. Since these are the values of 1 through 5, even if this was a 4, if this was a 4, that would say that 4 is not the clone value. So therefore, these can't have a 4 because they all see this cell. And they can't have a clone that adds up to 4 because we know the clone value is not 4. So that doesn't work. So therefore, this has to be 6 then, which means this can't be 6. So one of these two is 6, and this has to be 6. So we know this has to be 3 through 9 of value. This is one of the 6s, and 6 is not the clone. Therefore, 6 cannot be in either of these because 6 can't be the clone value. This can't be 5 in value, obviously. It could be the 5 there, but it can't be 3 in value because if it were 3, that wouldn't work, right? These all see 1, 2, 3 in actual numbers, right? Because we know 1, 2, and 3 cannot be the clone value. So this cannot be 1, 2, or 3. This cannot be 1, 2, or 3, which means you could have 4, 6, or 8, but 6 is not valid because 6 is not the clone value. Therefore, the only valid values here are 4 and 8, but they all see the value of 4, which means 4 has to be the clone value. So this has to be a 5. 4 is the clone value. So all of these 4s see these 4s. So either this is a clone value or one of these is a clone value. We're not sure which. We do know that the 8 has to be here. The 4 has to be here also, right? Because it has to be with 8. So this has to be the values of 2 and the value of 4. So this is 2 and 4 value, or it's 4 and 8 value. So the 2 can never be in any of the other cells. So 1 and 3, 1 or 3 is here, 1 or 3 is here. This can't be 4. So one of these is valued, is a 4 value, and one of these is a 4 value. So there cannot be any other 4 values here. So the rest have to be 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. Obviously, this can't be 5. And then the 4 is one of 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9, right, in value. So we know one of these is the clone, or one of these is the clone here. So none of these can be clones. So these can't be clones. Let's remove coloring here. These can't be clones. So if this is the clone, that means this can't be the clone. If this is the clone, that means this can't be the clone. So this can never be the clone either. Right? So if these two are the clones, that means these can't be clones, right? Because we know there's only one per line. If one of these is the clone, that means we know the 4 is already cloned in value, so therefore this can't be 4 in value. So this cannot be 6 or 8. We know there's a 2. We know one of these is 2. We know this one of these is 8. This has to be 6. And if it has a... It could be 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 5 or 6. So the 4 is the clone in value. So one of these is 6, one of these is 6. We're not sure which. So this is the values 3, 4, 5, 6, or 4, 5, 6, 7, or 5, 6, 7, 8, or 6, 7, 8, 9. If it's 3, 4, 5, 6, it always has to be 5 here, and then this would be the values of 3, 4, and 6. Or it could be 4, 6, and 7, or 4, 6, 6, 7, 8. Or this could be the value of 5, of 7, 8, or 9. So this could be 9 in value. The only way that there's a possibility of a clone cell here is if this is the real 4, whichever one it is, and this is 6, 7, 8, and 9. So this can never have 6, obviously. Could be 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. All of them are valid. So these are the values of it. Whatever the number is, we don't know. The 4 here has to be essentially one of 1, 3, 5, or 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. We're not sure which, so. Hold up. Say this was 6, 7, 8, 9, right? If this is 6, 7, 8, 9, that means this can never be, well, it could be 8, because that could be 8, right? So this would be 6, 7, 9. This could be 8. That could be 8 and 4 in real value. Here we have a value of 4, and we don't know what the rest is. If this is the... we don't know. None of these can be 6. We know... So therefore, there has to be a 5 and 6 in one of these 8 cells. We're not sure which. 4 is the clone value. Oh, interesting. So one thing we know is that this must contain a 1 or 3, or this must contain a 1 or 3. Actually, what we know for these sets, this has to be 1, 3, and 5. 5 cannot be cloned. So this has to be 1, 3, and 5 in value. And in the number, because in the digit, because we know 5 can't be cloned. So this can never be 1, 3, and 5. So this always must contain, it must be 6, 7, or 8, or it's 7, 8, or 9. So this has to contain a 7 and an 8, which means 2 has to be here, right? Because this can never be a 2, because 2 has to be with 1 or 3, and both of them are disallowed by these 3 digits. Therefore, this can't be 2. The 2 has to be here, which means this has to be a 2. So this is 1, 3, or 4 in value. This is 1, 3, or 4 in value. This is 6 or 9. It cannot have a 7. There cannot be a 7 here. So this is a 2. This can't be a 4 in value. Therefore, the 4 has to be here. There's no 4 in value here. The 4 has to be the 4 in value here. So this cannot contain a clone because none of them are clonable. So this has to have a 4 in value. And we have to have a 4 here. So it has to be the same then. Therefore, this must be the 4 with a 4 cloned in value. So none of these are cloned. This can't be 4 from regular because this can't be 4 in value. This can't be 4 in value. So the 4 in value have to be here, and the 4 has to be here. So this has to be the 4 that's cloned as itself. So this can't be 4 in value. So we have 1, 3, 1, 3, 5. So this can't be 5. So we have 1, 3 here, and this is 1, 3, and this is 1, 3, 1, 3. This can't be 1 or 3. The 4 can't be here either, because therefore, since this can't be 4, these actually have to be a 4 and an 8. Right? The 4 has to be here, which forces the 4 to be here in the non-clone version, which means this has to be the clone version. So these are not cloned. This can't be a clone value. Oh, wait. This doesn't have to be 1 or 3 then. If the 2 is cloned, then it would have to be a 4 if that's the case. We know this can't be the cloned 4. This can't be cloned because the clone has to be here. And it's a 4 in value. So it has to be the 4 that's cloned here. Where's the 2? The 2 has to be here. But it doesn't have to be a 2 in value. It could be a 4 in value. This can't be 5, though. So this could be 5. And this could be 5. Okay. So this actually has to be cloned then. Right? If this is the 4 again, this is 4. Because it has no other place to be. It can't be in any of these. It can't be either of these two. It has to be, the actual 4 itself has to be here. Which means this is clone value. Which means none of these can be cloned. So these can't be cloned, these can't be cloned, these can't be cloned. Where's the clone in box 5? It has to be this one. So this could be 2 in value, but it can't be, because therefore it has to be 5. Therefore, this is the clone, which means it has to be 3, 4, and 5 in value. Or I guess it could be 4, 5, and 6. It cannot go 2, 3, 4 because the 2 is not cloned, and they would have to be next to each other, which is not possible. So we know there's a 4, and it's sorry. This is the 4 in value. It has to be with either 5 and 6 or 5 and 3. Either way, there has to be a 5. So this is 5, which means it's 5 and 3 or 5 and 6. Therefore, we know the clone is one of these. This can't be 5 anymore. This has to be 1 and 3. So therefore, this has to be the 5, which means this can't be 5. This has to be 7 or 9. 7 has to be here. 9 cannot be here. We know the 2 in actual value and the 4 in actual value are here. Therefore, the rest of the line cannot contain a 2 or a 4. So this is 1, 3. 5 can't be here either. This can't be 5. So the 5 has to be one of these 4. This can't be 5. This can't be 5. This is 1, 3, 6, and 8, right? The 1 and 3 cannot be here because they would have to be with 7 and 9 in a Renban, which is not possible. So this can't be 1 or 3. This is 6 or 8. We could have 1, 3, no 2 or 4. This could be 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We just know that this cannot contain 1. It cannot be 3, 5, 6, 7, or 8. Because it would see all of them here. No, that's not true. Because one of them's here, right? This is 5 and the 4. And it's either with 6 or 9. Okay. This is value of 6, 7, 8, or 9, or 5. But it can't be 5. This can't be 5 here. This can't be 5 here. 5 is not the clone. So therefore, it cannot be 5. So therefore, this is 6 through 8 or 7 through 9. Sorry, 6 through 8 and 7 or 7 through 9, right? So we know one of these is 8. We also know one of these is 7. Because one of these is 7, this can't be 7. So therefore, this has to be a 9, which makes this a 7. So this can't be 7. This can't be 9. So this is 6, 7, and 8. This can't be 6 or 8. This is not cloned because it can't be. The clone value is 4. This is 4. This is not cloned either. So none of these are cloned because of the clone being the 2 here. So this is a value of 4. We're not sure which the clone is, though. So this can't be 7, which means 7 has to be one of these 3. Okay. These are not cloned. This could still be 4 through 9. But this would have to be the same value as that one, though, if that's the case. These can't be 9. These can't be 9. These can't be 7. So this can't be 4, 8. It could be 1 or 3. It could be 7. It could be 9. So this is 1, 3, 7, or 9. This is 1, 3, 7, or 9. None of these can be 6, 7, or 8. Because they see all 3 of these numbers. So this can't be 6, 7, or 8. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 9. So 5 can't be here. 5 can't be here. So the 5 has to be one of these four. Okay. Ah, this can't be 5 anymore. Since this can't be 5 anymore, this has to be the values of 6, 7, 8, 9, which means these are all non-clones. So this has to be the digits 1 through 5. 5 obviously can't be here. 5 is one of these three. This is 6, obviously. Right, so since the 5 is here, this can no longer be any of the values from 3 through 6. Or 4 through 7, 5 through 8. It has to be 6, 7, 8, 9. Which means none of them are clones. These two could be clones. Any of these could be clones. Obviously, if the 8 is here, this has to be 4 and 2. If this is 8, this has to be 6, 7, 9. And therefore, this would have to be 1 or 3. What is this? This has to be... So this can't be 6 or 8 either. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. These though could be 6 or 8. So these are still... Oh, can't be 8. Right. 8 can't be here. This is either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6. Because this has to be 7 and 8. So the 5 has to be one of these four, which is, I mean, valid. I guess this could be 5, 9. You would have to have 4, 7, 6, and 8. So say this does have 8. Okay, so say this is 4. If this is 4, this is 2. If this is 8, this forces this to be 6, 7, 9. So this always has to be either 2 or it's 1 or 3. Right? So if this was 8, this is 6, 7, 9, which means this is 1, 3, 1, 3, which would force this to be 2 and 4. That's actually very interesting if that's the case. Right, let's go down that path. That seems interesting. So, if this is 8, this becomes 6, 7, 9, which means this is 1, 3, and this has to be 1 or 3. So therefore, this is 2 and 4. This is 1, 3, 1, 3. Therefore, this is 9. This is 2. This is 4. This has to be 7. So then this would be 8, right? This would be 2 or 4, which means 2 cannot be here. 2 cannot be here specifically. This can't be 2 or 4 in actual... So this would have to be 2 and 4, which would force this to be the clone. And it would have to be with 5. So then we would have 1, 3 as one of the clones here, and then the other 1, 3 here as a clone. This would be, what, 1, 3, and 9. The problem is then, okay, so we know the clone then would be here. Oh, this would be clone, so then one of these would be clone. This would be 6, 7, and 8, right? Because of that, I mean, so far that seems fine, right? Then this is 7 or 8. It could be with a 3, or it could be with a 3, 4, or it could be 9. That all seems fair. So this couldn't be 8, which means this would have to be 8, which means this couldn't be 8. So this would be 6, this would be 8. That would force this to be 3. So this would not be 3. We know 1 and 3 cannot be the clones because there's the clones here and here. Therefore, the 9 would have to be the clone here. It can never be 1, though, right? So if this was 1, this would be with 7, but that's too large. So this has to be 3 and 9. The 9 is the clone. This is the 1, so this is 3, 4. This is 5, 6. This is either 2, 7, or 8. We're not sure which. Right? Because the 9 is the clone, so the 9 acts as the 4. This can't be 6 anymore, therefore this is the 6. Hold up. We have a contradiction then. This is 6, because the 8 has to be here. But that means none of these can be 6. We know this is 6 then because of that case. So I think in general this can't be 6, right? Let's go back, okay? Say this was 6. That eliminates all 6s here. That eliminates that 6, so therefore this must be 6. But the problem is, then that eliminates this 6, too. So if this was 6, that eliminates all the 6s here, and it eliminates that 6 here, even though we know it has to have a 6 because the 6 is not the clone value. Therefore, this can never be 6. This is 8, which makes that 6, which is interesting enough. That makes that 8. This can't be 6 anymore. These can't be 6, therefore this is 4, 5, and 9. So the 9 cannot be here either. So we know this is 9, which makes this 6, 7, 8. The 9 has to be one of these two now. This is 8. Therefore, we have 1 or 3 here, right? 8 can no longer be here, which means 8 has to be one of the... It can't be here. It has to be one of these two then. So this has to be 8 because we know this is 8 in length. So it has to have it's either 1 through 8 in value or 2 through 9 in value, and 8 is not cloned. So therefore, neither of these can be 8, which means 8 is here, which means this can't be 8. So this is 4, this is 2. And this is not cloned in value because the 8 is here. So therefore, this is 8, and this is the clone. So this is not 2. This is the clone, which means none of these are clones. The clone has to be one of these two, so none of these 6 are clones. The 8 is here, so this can't be 2, 4, 5, or 8. So this is 1, 3, no 6, 7, or 9. And one of these has to be cloned. And this is 1 or 3, 1, 3, or 7 that's cloned. This is 8 again. So 8 has to be one of those two. Which means 8 is one of these 3. This can't be 8. So this has to be 5, 6 with the 8. So the 7 has to be in value in one of these 4 cells. Therefore, this can't be 7, but this still could be 7 here. We're not sure. This has to be then the values of... It has to have an 8, so it's at least 3 through 8. So this has to be 3 through 8. Obviously, no 5 and 6 here. No 8 here. No 5 and 6. So this is 3, 4, 7, and 8. And then this could be the clone, which would be a value of 4, but then this would be 3, 7, 8. So one of these two is the clone. That doesn't tell us much. This can't be 6 or 7. 7's one of these two. We're not sure which. Seven has to be one of these 5, but we don't know which either. 5 has to be one of these 5. 6 has to be one of these 6s. So this can't be 5 through 8. We know 5 through 8 are not cloned values, and they all have to be in one of these 5 cells. So this has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 9. Right. Okay. So 8 has to be one of these 3 cells, but it actually has to be one of these 2. Because we know 8 is one of those 2 cells. This is 6, 7, 8. This is a 4 in value, so it's either with 3, 5 with or 3 and 6. Hmm. 5 cannot be here, so 5 has to be one of these 4 cells because it needs to be on this run band line. This can be 1, 2, 3, 4. No 5, 6, or 8. It could be 7 or 9 also. Hmm. One of these is 2, one of these is 4. This cannot be 6. One of these 4 is 6. What does that tell us? I'm not sure. Hmm. So this cannot be a 2 in value. It can't be a 1 in value. But it could be the 4 in value, right? Hmm. But 2 can't be that value, right? So this is 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It cannot be 8 because well, 8 could be the clone. So that doesn't really help much. So say the 2 is here. If the 2 is one of these two, that means this would have to be a 2. Which would also mean that would have to be a 2. So this would have to, one of these would have to be 1 through 6. The other one could be 2 through 7 or 1 through 6. Which would mean this would have to be 4 through 9, if that's the case. If this is one, okay, so if that's the case, you're right. So, okay, there we go. If this is the 2, that means none of these can be 2, none of these can be 2. This has to be a 2 then. And then this has to be a 2 because it cannot be on this red band because that's already a 2. Therefore, this is 1 through 7. This cannot be 1 through 6. One of these has to be 1 through 6. Can the other one be 2 through 7 though? No. Or actually, it can't. It has to be 2 through 7. It can't. The other one cannot be 1 through 6, 1 through 6, because then all the 1s and 3s would be taken up by these two Ren bands. So then this would be 9 and 7, and we'd have 5 digits, 5 cells, which would require a 9 through 7, which is not possible. So then it would have to be 2 through 7, and then 1 through 6, which would mean that this would be 3. This could not be 3, and it could not be 7. So this would have to be 1919. Hmm. And in fact, actually, we know it can't be 2 through 7. Where is the 8 in columns 1 and 2? It cannot be here. There's an 8 here in this red band. There's no 8 here. But we know this has to have an 8. So one of these has to have an 8 also, which means there are 2 that contain 8s. So there cannot be, and which is at lowest 3 through 8. So you cannot have 2 Ren bands contain 2s. So this 2 would not work here. So this cannot be a 2, which means one of these 4 is a 2. This can't be 2. And the 2 cannot be cloned because we already have the clone here. So therefore, the 2 would be an actual value. So this cannot be 2, which means this has to have a 2. This has to have an 8. This has to have a 2, which means 8 cannot be anywhere here. 8 can't be here because we know 8's here. 8 can't be here. Where's the 8? It has to be here. So this has to be 8, which means this has to be 4 through 9 in value. Which means we know This has to be 5 and 9 because it cannot be 6, 7, or 8. I guess it could still be 1, 2, 3, 4 in value, right? This has to be 9, though. Well, it could be... okay. It doesn't have to be. It could be 5 and... So in value, what we know what this is. So in value, this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. 7 obviously can't be here. 9 can't be here. 9 is one of those 3. This has to be 2, which means it has to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This can't be 2. This can't be 2 because this can't be 2 because we know the 2's here. The 5 has to be here. This can't be 5. This can't be 5. So 2, we have a problem. Then this can't be 2 either. But the problem is... something's not right here. Obviously, something's not right here. The 8 has to be... I see. So we've actually... that's interesting. We've proven that there's already an issue, right? So this cannot be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because if that's the case, all of 1 of 3 are used up, and therefore this is 7, 9. Right. Right. Okay. So we just showed you can't have 4 through 9 and 4 through 9 here, with this being the only 2. There have to be 2 2s then. Which means this is an 8 because we know that the clone has to be one of these 2. Because the clone cannot be any of these because we know this is the clone, so these can't be clones. This is obviously not the clone because of what we proved earlier. These can't be clones because 6, 7, 8, and 9 values cannot be cloned. Therefore, this has to be the clone value. Therefore, this 8 is real, but since there's no 8 here, the 8 has to be cloned here somewhere. So this has to have an 8 as a clone somewhere here, which means this cannot be cloned. And the clone has to be one of these 2, which means this can't be cloned. None of these are cloned. So one of these 2 is cloned. The 8 is cloned here. So it has to have 2 through 7. 1 is 1 through 6. So again, it cannot be 1 through 6 twice. Because if it's 1 through 6 twice in these Ren bands, then basically this would have... all the 1s and 3s would be accounted for. So therefore, this would be 7 and 9, but then you have 5 cells which must contain the values 6 through 9, which is not possible. So one of them has to be 1 through 7. 1 through 6. The other has to be 2 through 7, and there has to be a 4 through 9. So this cannot be... this has to be 4, 7, 8. Because you have to have a 4, 7, 8, and 9 somewhere to account for the 9. So this can't be 9. We have all the 3s accounted for in columns 1 and 2. So this can't be 9 anymore either. So all the 1s and 3s are accounted for in columns 1 and 2, which means... sorry, all the 3s and 7s are accounted for in 1s. And this can't be 7. This can't be 3. This can't be 9, so this must be 1, which makes this 9, which makes this 3. This has to be 6, 7, 8, which forces this to be 9. So 9 can no longer be any of these 4. If that's the case, we know this is 1 through 8 then. This has to be 1 through 8. This is the only 4 through 9. One of these is 2 through 7. One of these is 1 through 6. So these have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This can't be 6 or 7, obviously. This is 1 through... So 5 has to be one of these 5. So this cannot be 5. This can't be 5 either. The 5 is one of these. These can't be 2. So 2, this can't be 1 or 9 or 4 or 7. So this is 2, 3, 6, 2, 3, 6. And this is... So we tried to have the 2 here, which meant that was 2 and this is 2. So that actually does potentially work. And this is 2, 3, 6. So this cannot be the values of 2 and 3, because then that would make this both of these 6, which is not allowed. This is 3, so none of these are 3. Therefore, this has to be 9, which means these can't be 3. So this is 1, 2, and 4. This is a 3. So none of these can be 3. And you can't have a 1 anymore, any of these here. So therefore, this can't be 3. We know 3 is one of these 3. So this can't be 3. This is 8 with 4 or 7. One of these is 1 or 7. We're not sure which. One of these 2 is 8. One of these 2 is 8. Since this is 8, 9 can never be here. So 9 can't be here, can't be here, can't be any of these, because this would have to be with an 8 in value, and 8 is not cloned. Therefore, we know this is 9. So this can't be 9, this can't be 9, this has to be 9. So this can't be 9, this can't be 9. One of these 2 is 9. We're not sure which. The 9 has to be the actual value here. So 8 is one of the clones here. So here the 4 is the clone, and it's the value. These can't be 3. These can't be 3. We know 3 is one of these 3. So we have a 2, 3, 6 triplet in column 3. So therefore, the rest of the column cannot contain 2, 3, and 6. So that means the rest is 1, 4, and 7. That's 1, 4, and 7. Interesting. Okay. In these, one of 1, 4, 7, or 9 is the clone. Obviously can't be 4 because we know the 4 is the clone here. So in this case, it's either 1, 7, or 9 here. This is 1 or 7 as the clone. This is 1 or 9 as the clone. So we have all the 1, 4, 7, and 9s cloned. So this is obviously the 8. We need a 3 not as a clone. So none of these can be cloned, right? Yeah, none of these values can be cloned because we already have the foreign value. So none of those are cloned. So this could be 5, 6, 7. This could be 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3. Huh. So we know the 8 in value here has to be actually, the 8 as a digit is the clone value, so it has to be 4. So therefore 4 cannot be here. This could be 4 though, or this could be 4. None of these can be 1. So this is 2 through 8. This can't be 5 because none of these are 5. Therefore, this is 5. Therefore, this can't be 5. The 5 has to be one of these 4. So the 2 has to be one of these 2, which means this can't be 2 because this is a 2, 3, 6 triplet, right? But the 2 can't be here. So therefore, this is also a 2 here. So this has to have a 2. This can't be 2 then. One of these is a 2. Hmm. So whatever this value is the same as this value, right? Because obviously this is a 2, 3, 6 triplet. This is a 2, 3, 6 triplet. These must be the same ones then, because these two are the same. So we know specifically that equals that, and they're not the clone. It cannot be that one, obviously, so it also has to be here. This one is specific. I guess it could be either of these two, too. Yeah, we don't know anything about that. So the 2 has to be one of these 3. This cannot be 2 and 3. It could be 1 and 2. It could be 3 and 4, or it could be 4 and 5. The 4 can never be here. Right? So the 4 is either here or it's here. This can never be 4 because we have already a... So this is 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, or 8 in value. We know the 2, the 5, and the 8 have to be there. It's getting really messy here. The 8 is essentially the clone. But this could be 1. Yeah, it's a lot of possibilities still there. Let's see. So this cannot be 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 either. And it can't be 9. So this has to be 1, 2, or 4 also. Obviously, this can't be 7. Okay, so either this is 9 or this is 9. We're not sure which. Ah, one of these is 6 or 7, which means this cannot be. Well, I guess it could be neither, right? This could be 3, 5, 8. That's possible. Hmm. In which case, this would be 6 and 7, which is possible. Hmm. Okay. So we know 4 cannot be here. If this is 4, that would mean 5 is here, but there's no clone value possible either. And then 5 would have to be with 4. So this cannot be 4. Still could be 5. So we know 1, 2, and 4 cannot be the clone values. Because 2 is already cloned here, 4 is cloned here. We know 1, 7, and 9 are cloned here. So therefore, all of these cannot be cloned. Therefore, this must be the clone. Because these can't be cloned because of that clone, and these are not clone values. This has to be the clone value then, which means none of these are cloned, which means this can't be 8. So we know one of these two is 8, which means this can't be 8 and this can't be 8, which forces this to be the 8 since this is the only 8 on this line now. That's possible. Therefore, this can't be 8. Therefore, that's 8. So one of these two is the clone. This is the clone. One of these two is the clone. This can't be 1, 2, 4, 7, 9, or 8. It could be 3 or 5, but 3 can't be here because of this one. Therefore, this has to be a 5, and it has to be a clone, right? I guess it could be 6. Yeah, 1, 2, and 4 cannot be cloned anymore. This is 2, this is the 4. 1 is one of these 3, therefore this has to be a 3 cloned. So this can't be 3, therefore this is a 2, which forces this to be a 3, 6 pair. So therefore this can't be 2. This has to have a 3, which means this can't be 3. So this is either 1, 2, or it's 4, 5. Which leaves this as 2 or 5. This is not 1, 2, 4, 5, 3. Can't be 3 anymore. So no 1, 2, 3, 4. No 7 or 9. No 8. So this is 5 or 6. We have a 3, 5, 6, 7 quadruple in column 9. Therefore, this cannot, none of the rest of the column can contain 3, 5, 6, or 7. Therefore, this is 2, which means this can't be 2. So this has to be 4 and 5, which makes this 1 and 3, which makes this 7, which makes this 1. So therefore, this is 4 and 8, which makes this 7. The 1 is the clone here, so therefore this cannot be a clone. Therefore, in this case, the 9 is the clone, and it's here, which means this can't be the clone, which means this has to be the clone here. So therefore, this is the 8. This can't be an 8 in value. So this is the 4 in value. This is 3 or 6. This is 3 or 6. This is 4 and 5. These can't be 2 anymore, so this is a 1, 4 pair. This has to have a 5 or 6 as the clone, and we're not sure which one it is. So one of these is 5 or 6 as the clone. One of these is 5 or 6 as the clone, so therefore this must be 7, and one of these must be 5 or 6. Therefore, this can't. We have all the 5s, 6, and 7s already accounted for in box 9. Therefore, this can't be 6 or 7. So this is 3, which means this can't be 3. So this can't be 3. So this is 5 or 6. There's no 8 here, so it cannot be 5, 6, and 7, specifically because of these. It can't be 4, 5, 6. It has to have a 3 here. There has to be a 3, and it's with 4, 5, or it's 1 or 2 as possibilities. So this is always 3. And it can be 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, or 3, 4, 5. Cannot be 4, 5, 6 because that would eliminate all possibilities here. And the 5 we know has to be one of these two because this can't be 5. Therefore, this has to be then 2 and 3 here. So 2 and 3 are here. Obviously, this can't be 2. This could be 1, 4, 6, or 7 because it cannot have a 5. The 5 has to be one of these two. So 2 has to be one of these two because it can't be here. So therefore, this can't be 2. Therefore, the only 2 impossibility in box 4 has to be now here, which means none of these can be 2. None of these can be 2. So this is 2 or 3 or 6. So this can't be 4 or 5. This can't be 4, 5, or 7. This is 2 with 3 or 6. So 5 cannot be here. 5 has to be one of these two then, which means 5 cannot be here, which means this is 5. That's the only possibility left. This can't be 8. This is 4, which makes that 8. This can't be 7. We have a 2, 3, 6 triplet here. So therefore, this must be the same as this one. Because we have 3, 6, and 3, 6. This can't be 3 or 6. This is a 1, 4, 7 triplet. This can't be 1, 4, or 7 then in box 4. So this is 3 and 6 and 3 and 6, which forces this to be a 7. This can't be 5. So this is 4, which makes that a 5, which makes this a 6. So none of these can be 6. This can't be 6. This is 7. This can't be 7 anymore. Therefore, this is a 5. This can no longer be 6. We have a 1, 4, 7 triplet in row 4. So the rest of the row cannot contain a 1, 4, or 7. So this is 3. This is 1. That forces this to be a 7, which makes that a 4 and that a 1. So this is now 3 through 7 in value. This must be a 1. This can't be 1 or 4. This can't be 1 or 4. This has to be 9. This has to be 7. The 9 cannot be the clone because it's already got in value. Therefore, this is the clone. None of these can be clones. The only clone left is possible in row 8 has to be here. So this has to be the clone, which is a 4. So that forces this to be 1. That forces this to be 4. This can't be 4. This can't be 4. This can't be 1 or 4. These can't be 7. This is not the clone. So therefore, one of these two is a clone, and it has to be a 5 with it. Right? So therefore, this becomes a 5-8 pair. Which means this can't be 5. This can't be 5. This can't be 4. So we can delete the outer stuff. This has to be the 5. So these two are the same. This can't be 3 or 4, so this is 1. So therefore, this has to be 1, 2, and 3. This can't be 7, so this is 6. These can't be 1. This has to be a 4, 7 pair. This can no longer be 1, so this is 3, and this is 1. The 1 is not the clone. The 3 is the clone in box 3. Therefore, this can't be cloned because of this clone. Therefore, this is the clone, and it's a 5. Therefore, this is an 8. This can't be 3. This is 2. Therefore, this is 3. Therefore, this is a 2 here. This is a 9. That's a 1. This is a 2. This can't be 1 anymore, so this must be 1. This can't be 3, so this is 6, which makes this a 6. This can't be 6. This is a 3, which makes this a 3. Therefore, that's a 6. This can't be 1, 3. This can't be 6, so this has to be 2, which makes that a 3. That's 3 in the corner. We celebrate. This can't be 1, 3, or 6. This is a 4. Now we're just doing Sudoku. This is a 4, this is a 5. This can't be 8, so this is 6, this is 8. This can't be 6, so this is 7, this is 6. This can't be 4, this is 7, and that's a 4. And that's a solution. Not too bad, actually, for a very hard puzzle. Pretty, actually, straightforward, if you think about it. You just have to think about it logically enough, right? So these are all the clone digits which have to be 4 in value. So again, this would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. This would be 2, 3, 4 in value, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4 in value, 5. This is 6, 7, 8, and 9 in value. This is 4 and 5 in value. 1, 2, 3 in value. 6, 7, 8 in value. 3, 4, 5 in value. 6, 7, 8 in value. 1, 2, 3, 4 in value as itself. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Very cool. Cool concept, cool idea. Flowed very well all throughout. And I enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed this solve. And I'll see you next time on Frank Puzzles. Take care.